morning and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting of the Municipality of the County of Annapolis. I have a statement to read, which last week on my behalf was read to the members of the Umber Clements Area Advisory Committee. I apologize for a statement I made recently concerning Dugway Road. I was carried away by the moment and embellished what I meant to say. There is no intent to rename the road. Thank you. Roll call beginning with District 1.
Bruce Prout.
District 2, Ryan Fuzzy-Call.
District 3, Dustin Enslow.
District 4, Clyde Bartow.
District 5, Lynn Longmire.
District 6, Alec Morrison.
District 7, David Hudson.
District 8, Michael Gunn.
District 9, Wendy Sheridan.
District 10, Brad Redden.
District 11, Diane LeBlanc.
Thank you. Are there any disclosures of interest? Thank you. We have the order of the day. We will now move to the minutes of March 17th. We will now move to the minutes of June 13th. Thank you. There is a letter from the Prime Minister on basic income guarantee. And we will now move to the information report on dangerous and unsightly premises, which should be in the area of page 25.
Exactly.
Page 26, actually.
I'd like to say thank you to Cheryl for setting up a clear report.
Feel free, why don't you do so?
Thank you. I'm done.
I think District 8's winning.
Yeah.
Is there a contest?
I would hope not.
Yeah, it's accompanied by the expense claims. All right, page 28. Deputy Warden, have you got that up?
Yes.
Could you turn request for recommendation to council into a motion, please?
Yeah, I was just reading through that motion. I move that, will brain operating properly. I move that we recommend to council that we approve the AM-1.3.6.5 Source Water Protection Advisory Committee policy.
Thank you. Seconded by?
7-day notice.
Second, Councillor Sheridan. Thank you. Discussion. Councillor Bartow, please.
The concern I have is consolidating this. Right now, there's 4 area water advisory committees. And with the new one, it says, well, let me start by saying on 21.A, it says no less than 8 citizen members. On the B, C, and D, it says no more than 2, no more than 2, no more. So basically, it's got to be 8. You can't go more, you can't go less if you read the whole thing. My other comment is that we should have equal representation from each area, where there's 2 representatives that have interest in commercial. The other 2 positions are for people that take residential mortgages. If you had equal representation, that you had 2 from each area, that would add 2 more to the total if you wanted to have 2 extra to be related to the commercial and institutional. So I think we need to look at that as to the numbers, the fairness on representation to each area committee.
Thank you. Councillor.
And No, it's okay.
Thank you. Councillor Vaughn, please.
I do understand what Councillor Bartow is talking about as far as, the numbers are going to be lower. However, we, in the past 8 years, we've had difficulty getting anybody to, newcomers to sit on these committees. So putting them together, having 8, I think could work better than where we're sitting right now. So I think that, from my point of view, I think this is a great proposal and I'll be voting for it. And I'm sure any member that's been sitting on the nominating knows how difficult it is to bring people to these 4 groups. Thank you.
You're done. I feel I work as a member of that committee for the Granville Parish Source Water, and I obtained the 2 citizens members without any big problems, and they were good people to sit on that. So I wouldn't want to see one of those people chopped. I think every other area has the same opportunity with council putting some input in to dig out some good people in those areas to fill those roles. So I don't see that as a problem, but first it says minimum of, I think it's a minimum, it's not less than 8, but on the other hand, like I'll reiterate that it only adds up to 8 in maximum. So I think that we need to look at that if nothing else.
Thank you.
And that we give consideration. If we don't, if there's 8, if there's 10, if we don't fill a couple, that's happened before, but I really strongly feel that we need to give the opportunity for equal representation in each area committee. Thank you.
Councillor Connell, if there were no other folks wishing to speak, we would move to a vote on this. You've stated twice you would like to see something.
I guess I would be, before discussions are closed, I would make a motion to amend that.
Thank you. Councillor Connell, followed by Councillor Gunn, please.
Well, I have an issue with only 2 councillors. If my residents are part of the East End, I have no choice. I sit on it. And the water protection in Marksville is just as important as that East End. So who are you going to choose for councillors? Because when you go to the table for the water supply, your councillor should be there. Because if not, there's going to be a lot of questions in this council chambers where a person's not going to know what went on. I'm also like Clyde. We worked hard, and why it's hard to get people on that committee? Ask the guys in Margarettsville. They've been appointed to that committee for 20-some years, and I can count how many meetings we've had on my 2 hands. Some years we go years and no meeting, and they say, why not? Their question was, it was almost done. What happened to it? Why did we stop? That's why they don't want to sit on it, because we beg for them to come sit on those committees, and then we do nothing, and they're sick of it. So I honestly think that if there's 4 water supply committees that you're hooking together, all 4 councillors should be there.
Could I clarify the councillor section?
Yes, please.
The wording would provide for that because it does say not less than 2.
Exactly.
So as many councillors as would want to serve would be permitted in accordance with the way it's currently written.
And I think also there should be 8 representatives, 2 from each water supply. Every water supply has a unique difference. Lake Cotw has nothing to do with the wells in Margarettsville. The wells in Margarettsville have nothing to do with the wells in Granville Parish and who they supply to and how the water supply is. Margarettsville has its own unique thing where they run out of water. So they need a different type. So I think if this committee is going to work, it should be equal across the board. 2 from each water supply and each council.
Thank you. Councillor Gunn, please.
Thank you so much. I'm glad somebody explained it, because I read this through a couple of times and I was trying to scratch my head. So the Lake Cotw water source protection hasn't met since I've been on it. Hasn't met for years. As a matter of fact, most of the people that were on from out that way died. 2 of them died in the last couple of years. So we have another one now. I think that's about it. Is that one and me. So we've never had a reason to call. And here's the next thing. As a counselor, I've never really understood who calls the meetings in this case. Is it the counselor that calls the meeting? Is he all of a sudden chair of this body because he's counselor for the area? You know, is that the way it works? Does he call it? Does one of the citizens call it? One of the citizen members? And what are we actually doing as a Lake Cotw? Are we going there to make sure that people on Lake Cotw haven't put septic systems in now, since, you know, nobody's been doing anything out there checking things out through the years? Are we making sure that, you know, people aren't running motorboats up and down the lake? It's our water source. What are we actually doing? So that's the questions I'd kind of answered before, you know, I vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anslow.
Thank you. I really don't want to echo what's already been said, but yeah, that's my new favorite saying. But I just had a question of, right now for the Bridgetown group, how many members are actually on that? Because it's never set since, but I've only been councillor for a short period of time.
I would have to have Wanda answer that. I'm sorry, I don't have anything to do with nominating committee, or perhaps Councillor LeBlanc has a recollection of that. I think it's 1 or 2.
It's definitely 2,
Okay.
but I don't have my papers with me, so you
I just agree with Councillor Connell that if we're doing this, that it really should be the councillor from each area and 2 individuals. Because I feel that if we go to this point and we don't have that big representation, the county citizens are going to feel left out, that the county's then making all the decisions without the input of the local people. And, you know, I'm part of the Bridgetown Water Group. I have town water, so I would feel that way. So if I was to move forward with this, I would go with Mr. Councillor Connell's comments. I think that's the way that we should do.
Clerk.
The Bridgetown Source Water Protection Area Advisory Committee, which currently calls for not more than 5 citizen members, has 0 applicants, so there are 0 members on it.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you for pulling that up for me.
But what are we doing as a county to push that?
Promote it?
To promote it?
Here's an opportunity. That gets advertised widely more than once. It gets on the sign at the Sports Hub, it gets in the Reader, and it gets, I believe, maybe in the Advertiser, and we ask all councillors to check with their citizens to see if they would respond.
Yeah, but if we're not having regular meetings, then I think it's a double-edged sword, I think. You know, we have these committees, we're not using these committees, but now we're saying that we have no one for these committees. It's just, I don't know if we're putting the cart before the horse. I don't know. Thank you.
Did you have your hand up?
I did.
Councillor Longmire, please.
Thank you. I really appreciate what Councillor Bardo and Councillor Cotw mentioned. I am part of the Granville Ferry source water and worked hard to secure someone for the committee, but unfortunately she changed addresses and was moving out of the area, so she no longer qualified to be on that committee. I think the strength is in the numbers, and I think we should fight for the numbers. I like that this is all going to come under one umbrella, because it is a common theme, and there are uniquenesses amongst all 4, but it is still water, and I think we need to remain hopeful that we can go out and find some membership to be part of this new group. I'll leave it there.
Thank you.
If I can let you know the membership on all the
Yes, please.
source waters, if you like.
Yes, please.
The Lake Katy source water is not more than 6 members. It has 1 citizen member, so there are 5 vacancies. The Margarettsville source water calls for not more than 4. It has 1. And this other one, Granville Ferry, has no citizen members.
Excuse me? We have 2? So I'm not going to question your numbers.
Yeah, we have to.
Okay, I may have not be seeing an updated.
I speak to that.
When it was updated, sorry, the list that I have is from the initial list after the first round of nominations. So if there are 2 after the first round of nominations, they were found. I did not have that on this current document that I have.
Thank you. Councillor Sheridan, please.
So I just want to mention, I was recently appointed to the Middleton Source Water Protection, and we had our first meeting last evening. They recommend that you have 3 to 4 meetings per year, and it was very interesting because there's some maintenance issues and things like that that we may be overlooking that has been overlooked in the town. So I think it's very important. I think this is great. It's a great first step, and I think they should meet as soon as they can if this does pass, because I realized last night how important the water protection is. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gunn, please.
Thank you. And I'm not quite sure, as I asked this question last time, could somebody give me an idea of what the mandate of these different groups is? What's their mandate? What are they actually looking to suggest? That the water's safe? The water's safe to drink? Well, we have staff personnel that make sure the water's safe to drink. What's the mandate of these groups? Thank you. That's all I want to know.
I remember from being on one of them that I got all the information from the county webpage.
It's summarized in section 28.
Okay.
And then in your report, I also put a link to the Nova Scotia Drinking Water Strategy, which further expands upon the role of the committees. But in 28, it's basically to consult with stakeholders to satisfy water quantity and quality concerns, sources of contamination in water supply areas, management options available, and the ongoing effectiveness of the source water protection plans. So a great deal of the role of the committee has to do with the water source plans. And that would involve, for example, if there are upgrades and improvements that are required at the water source. And I believe that's exactly the kind of thing the town of Middleton is dealing with right now. And by trying to create a combined committee, our thought was that the 4 committees have not been working effectively and efficiently, and that by drawing them together with common concerns and common issues and common perspectives, perhaps there's a better chance of it working better. We're mindful that there are appointees currently on the roll for some of these committees, and when we came up with the numbers, we weren't at all firm on them. We put it together as okay, if we start here, it would accommodate the people that are currently appointed and try and pull them together for an initial meeting. But these numbers are not at all firm. This is council's policy and could be changed.
So, Councillor Crowe.
Thank you. There is one in my district, but not surprised that it's been my understanding that there haven't been a lot of meetings. My understanding, just being here on council, that sometimes it's difficult to get the volunteers to fill these, when I listen to the nomination committee reports and so on. But I would certainly think that some of what's been expressed here, the idea that trying to get at least 2 citizen members from each of those 4, plus the counselor who sits on or represents the district that committee is located in, I think that would be a good start. I think maybe as we look to try to streamline things and make things work a bit better than perhaps they have in the past, that would be a good place to start. That's my thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Just like to go over a couple things before I move to something formal. The difficulty of foreign committees, if you rely on advertising, people don't jump out to see it. Sometimes you have to go talk to them and they understand that, oh, man, I really have some interest in that. But both members that I got to step forward, excellent members, were the same thing. If I hadn't gone and seen them and brought that to them personally, they wouldn't have stepped up. When I asked them about it, they said, oh yeah, I'd love to. Sometimes it doesn't take much to get those members. I don't think we should short circuit the numbers because of the current situation where we're not filled. I think we need to try a little harder to fill those positions, and the numbers should reflect what we want. We want representation. We want at least a couple members from each community. We need from each source water area. We need a councilor from each. And in the case of mine in District 4, it actually affects District 5 too. Councilor Longmire and myself are both on that committee. So to say one councilor would be a problem there as well. So we need two. So it's not one councilor per committee. You know, we might end up with instead of 4 or 5 because it affects the area that she's in as well. Now, it's mainly in mine and Ferry. District 6 butts up on, District 5 butts up on District 4.
You have an amendment?
That's for that comment. Just one more comment, and maybe it's not related to this policy per se, but it is in reality for people to consider, is there's been several comments on meetings, not having any meetings. I think there should be at least one annual meeting, if nothing else. I've been on the Grand Prairie Source Water Committee since I was elected. So there's been, into the third year, there hasn't been a meeting. The other thing that really bothered me was that when we had the tank water failure up on the reservoir, by the wells, the committee wasn't called to have a meeting. That should not have happened. And maybe I should have pushed a little more at that time, but it's just stuck in under my saddle per se since then. So I think we need to be a little more proactive on getting these committees to meet and using them to their intended purpose and to work towards getting the members. Now, maybe every district isn't the same as mine, but I had no problem finding the 2 members that was required to fill the vacancies. That's all I'm saying is that's related to me. Every district has its own little set of circumstances, so maybe it's a little tough. I don't know. But what I'm saying is we should try, and we should have those maximum numbers that we think that should be there. If we don't fill them, then we work to fill them. But we don't take it out of the policy before we even start. So, having said that, I would make a motion, but I see Councilor LeBlanc has her hand up. So,
I'm chairing the meeting, thank you.
I'm just mentioning that.
In an effort to remove the burr from where you say it is, are you ready to offer an amendment?
Yes, but you might have to follow with me on my wording because I don't have that formalized ahead of time.
Well then, okay, last word, and then we're going to move to our speaker.
Okay. I presume that if we're looking at this and what I've been hearing, our problem is number 14 on page 32, where it doesn't say that we should be meeting quarterly or whichever number you want to meet. The next problem is on page 33, number 29, where it says, municipal council shall appoint in total not less than 2 council members. We just need to change that to, we'll have all councilors of the areas and not less than 8 citizens, or if you want to change that number to 8, because it's not less. We can put more, we can't put less than 8. So those are the two areas that I hear before we go anywhere else or discuss it. I think those are the two sections, and I presume that Ms. Campbell will tell me if I'm wrong or right on the sections as we go forward. And that's where I would be doing my amendment.
Thank you. We're going to place this item in purgatory.
Yes.
And we're going to call on Sergeant Mike Maxwell for his 10-minute presentation.
Will I be called back today?
Right
That's
after.
not an official motion.
We'll have a discussion about how to get out of purgatory.
Purgatory's not a,
Let me get it.
how would you like to make that?
Sergeant Maxwell.
Hello, everyone. I'm kind of glad, I apologize, but I'm glad I showed up a couple minutes late hearing the debate, kind of reinterest me in some local politics. I'll hand out a few documents here. I would appreciate it.
Thank you.
I
Now,
wanted to go on that.
More information than we've got in a long time.
So, maybe not, but it is some information. I can wait to remember it doesn't help. So the first report that you have there is a most recent report that I presented to the local police advisory board. And the second is a copy of what's referred to as a mayor's report. And you don't feel obligated to go through all of that right now, but please feel free to do so if you like. Oh, sure. You're just, you're recording. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Yeah. Don't feel obligated to go through all that information right now, but feel free to now or later at your convenience. The purpose for me being here today is mostly, I've been posted here to Annapolis County for almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in August. In that time, and for the last 9 months, I've been in charge of the Annapolis District RCMP office. And in that time, when I first got here, I met with Councillor Prout and the previous warden at our RCMP detachment, and I believe that would have been in August 2 years ago, maybe September. And since then, I haven't really had any conversations with the council at all. So I'm here. I'm giving you some stats and a report about the work that we're doing. And at the last police advisory board meeting, I was able to speak with CEO McNeil a little bit, and he recommended actually the mayor's report being delivered to the county, which I thought was a good idea. It's actually not something that I've been asked for in quite some time, but it is kind of reflective of what the police station or the police district is going through. And I want to start a conversation perhaps about the relationship that the county would like to have with the police district. And if that's managed through the police advisory board only, I'm 100% okay with that. Through my career, I have had certainly more communication with the communities that I work than I have here, and I would like to increase those conversations if that's needed or wanted from the county as well. That's the reason that I'm here.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming. Usually, we have a meeting each year where we receive the annual reports, but like everything else, COVID was around for a while.
Okay.
Comments or questions? Councillor Cotw, please.
I just was thinking that seeing and hearing of all the thefts that are going on and hearing on the ground floor, because a lot of times we hear things throughout the community. A lot of them are being conducted using our trails. Is there any way that the county could lobby the provincial government put a scheduled shutdown of that trail, like from 11 at night till 6 in the morning, because this is when the activity's going. I understand and I know, because I've talked to a lot of people, I've had my neighbors' four-wheelers stolen. I live right beside the tracks. I think my dogs deter anyone coming up on my piece of property. But you hear them going all hours of the night. And I realize that talking to people, a lot of times they're scoping things out in daylight, but they're not touching nothing in daylight usually. They come back. So would it be something that could be done to help the situation if we were to lobby the natural resources to put a quiet period on that tracks or shut down that rail line for activities from point A to point B? You think it would help?
I would most certainly leave the lobbying to this group. You're much better suited to understand that than I. And as far as freedom of movement, I would suggest you get a lot of political pushback about telling people they can't use a trail at night or whatnot. I mean, between 11 and 7, I assume there's not many people recreating on the trail. I understand what you're saying. And we certainly also get the intel that if certainly things aren't being stolen in that fashion, it's certainly being transported from one area to another via the trail. But I guess that would be a decision to discuss here and to take to the government perhaps.
Well, I look at you watch what the trails are being managed in Maine and New Hampshire, and I watch that program quite a bit, and I see more activity from Natural Resources managing their trail than what they're doing here. Like, because I live beside the trail, see what's going on the trail daily, have to go down and help some of them individuals that shouldn't even be on the trail with junk four-wheelers and running up and down the road and getting them off the road so they don't get hit by cars. You know, I don't call you guys every time some idiot comes down the road, but I don't want them to get hit by a car coming down over the hill, that blind hill that I live on.
Or have them hit somebody else.
So, I mean, quite often I go out to help them get on their way and get going, hopefully back home. But I just think that there should be more control and more surveillance of those trails, because I think there's four-wheelers that shouldn't be on the trail. There's individuals that are seeking out these places to steal things. And I know they're pretty brazen, because I've talked to individuals and they've drove in their driveway, and people will be coming out their driveway and say, oh, I'm just going for a walk. But you know what they're doing. So I mean, and a lot of times the rail line where it runs down through the center of our county is the backbone to some of that happening. And that's my concern, is either we lobby to have a quiet time on the tracks, or we lobby for Natural Resources to put their own qualified men out on the tracks to help you guys, because I think there's a lot of stuff going up and down that rail line.
So you just, when I was listening to you speak, I heard a few things. So when I heard temporary closures, when I heard surveillance, when I heard more enforcement, those are all things that can be considered. I am not able to close the tracks, of course.
No.
I don't know if surveillance has been discussed before. Of course, more surveillance helps police, but that's also technically an infringement on people's privacy. But I mean, it's done lots of places. It just has to be debated and sought. And then enforcement is definitely something that, so we ran a project in the county with DNR or conservation earlier this year, and we caught impaired drivers and we caught unlicensed vehicles, and I'm sure if we were out there every day, we would catch people regularly. It's choosing priorities for the day and the week and the month, of course, I know you understand. But we can look at that aspect for sure from our office.
Thank you. Councillor Bartow.
That's a good topic. I don't think that we want to have television on looking at thefts, et cetera. It's not all on the real bed. Sure, some might happen there, but I don't want it to sound like it's corporate of everything. There's, for an example, I had a neighbor that lived a few miles from me, not that long ago. They had somebody come in and into their property, stole some stuff. Turned out that the individual was downstairs in the basement, and he come up and heard some noise. And they jumped off the balcony onto the bicycle and into the driveway, and they never caught him. Well, that wasn't anything to do with the trail. We need to be looking at everything, and if there's a complaint come in, it's investigated properly. In the past I've had, not recently, I had one incident at Cottage that I called, they broke in, come, no problem. I went through alternative measures with the kid and everything. And then the next time what happened out there, I never even seen anybody show up to address my complaint. So there's no consistency as far as I'm concerned, and we need to have some idea and some realization that when calls are put in, that they're going to be followed up on. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody in particular, I'm just using examples from my own past that are firsthand. I can't talk about third-hand information, but I just like to look at things globally. Trails, as far as I know, there hasn't been problems in my area, but that's not saying tomorrow there won't be. And am I correct in assuming that the DNR has more control of the those treasure trails at this point, or where does the RCMP step in, or is there a conflict of jurisdictions there?
No, there's no conflict of jurisdictions. So most generally, law enforcement agencies work together on a lot of things, and it would more come down to the crime that's being investigated. So if somebody's committing provincial offenses that fall under the mandate of conservation, then they would be looking into that, and if it's crimes or other provincial offenses, we might be looking into it. So it would just depend on the matter at hand, I would say.
Thank you.
Right here.
Councillor Gunn.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Sergeant. What I'm really glad to see is that, you've got some methamphetamine, one of those dealers off the street. I'm very happy about that because years ago, well, even last year, a friend of mine had some tires sitting in his yard. He just picked up for his truck, and he was out working. And right in the afternoon, they came right in, picked the tires up. Somebody picked them up, stole them, and had them trade for crack by the end of the day down to Weymouth way. And, it wasn't the RCMP that found that out. It was the young man going out and doing some inquiring on his own. A few years ago in Clementsport, I remember we had a crack dealer down there, and all of a sudden the crime rate was up, and their little shops were getting power saws, whippersnippers, everything was getting stolen in the neighborhood, anything that could get carried off. And you know how they were doing a lot of it was walking along the tracks.
That's right.
As well. So I'm really happy to see that you're getting that stuff taken care of, because I believe that if you guys concentrate on getting that meth and that crack and the rest of this garbage off the streets, then we'll have a lot less B&Es and a lot less thefts and that around. Even with the old pot, the most they're going to steal is a little bit of chips, but that's pretty friendly. It's not this other business. Thank you for your service.
I appreciate the point. Sorry, I'll just. And you're right. A lot of the property crime is being fueled, I would say, by addiction currently. And we are kind of right now going through it with high property crime rates across the county. And we have a arrested and charged drug dealers. We've executed search warrants and recovered drugs. We've executed search warrants and recovered stolen property. We've arrested and charged numerous offenders over and over and over again. We were dealing with a situation yesterday that we had arrested and charged the same person 9 times since April. Almost exclusively, I believe, for thefts. But they were out they were arrested on Friday, yesterday afternoon. So it's an ongoing thing. It's certainly, I would say, fueled by addiction. And of course, we understand that we can't arrest our way out of addiction issues. But we will continue to investigate and enforce the crime aspect and return the people here to Annapolis Courthouse and Digby Courthouse to the best of our ability. And we're going to keep seeking those enforcement opportunities like I can reference from the report there, so thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Sheridan, please.
So thank you for being here and answering our questions. I know you do a lot, and I've heard recently a lot of arrests. Appreciate that. My concern is citizens taking it into their own hands, and often they fear nothing when they're after their things that have been stolen. So I'm fearful that they're going to get hurt in trying to recover their items. Is there any way, and I realize that you're doing many arrests, but is there any way of reassuring them that they should stay back and allow you people to do your job? Because it is a concern, and I hear it on the street that somebody is definitely going to get hurt. I've heard of shotguns going, excuse me, in vehicles chasing these people. So.
Well, it's really interesting. So since I've been here, we've investigated shootings and violent offenses, and we hear the same thing that the folks in this room here, I'm sure. I always encourage, there's a culture too, and it's very interesting. People want the thefts to stop, and while we're investigating, we hear a lot of, well, I don't want to talk to the police because I don't want to be involved. Those two things don't go hand in hand. Solving crime and victims of crime not speaking to the police, it's a difficult. So that comes to the relationship between the police and the community, and it comes to culture, and it comes to a lot of different things. So we do discuss that with a lot of people. We recently, essentially, we know that a motorcycle was stolen. We know, a lot of the facts that happened, but the person who owns a motorcycle just doesn't want to tell us about it. So we know, and it would be pretty easy, with a little bit more investigation to go and arrest somebody and charge them with certain offenses. But people don't want to talk to police because of whatever other repercussions they're worried about, whether that be pressure from community, family, friends, I'm not sure. But that is a barrier for sure. People would rather, it's a lot easier, if I know where my bicycle is that was just stolen, I don't face the same rules, regulations, policies that the police do. I can just go down and bang on my neighbor's door and say, give me my stuff back now. Where the police, if I want to go and have those types of discussions, I have a lot of rules to follow that the people that we're dealing with, they don't necessarily follow those rules. So it's not impossible, obviously, but sometimes people would rather just go get their bicycle back, which might not be better for the community in the long term, but they get their bike back.
And a lot of times too, what I've heard is that they don't end up getting charged. When they go to court, it's thrown out or they're back on the street. So that's very frustrating as an individual that just lost over $5,000 worth of items. So I think this is why, in some cases, and which is not your fault. I mean, this is the court. Like, things need to change, in my opinion, on how they are being charged and how fearful of individuals are to live in their own communities because of this.
Well, you're stroking a chord that the police are obviously very aware of. So we arrest people and we charge people and we send them to the courts. So what's in our control is the quality of the investigation that we do, the information that we put forward to the court system. But once it gets there, and once trial day comes or plea deal day comes, the police have no no contributions to that. So public become frustrated, police become frustrated, but it's really, that's not my world.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ansel, followed by Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, first of all. Windy, Councillor Sheridan kind of took the wind in my sails, but I was just going to ask, I know it's a big discussion constantly around arrest versus conviction rates. And I'm just wondering if we would be able to get a rough percentage of how many arrests actually end in conviction. Oh, it's on there? Oh, I just didn't look at the whole thing.
So what you'll find in that report, and that report shouldn't have come out at 61 pages. So what I'll try to do going forward is break that into more manageable information. But what you will see in there is like complaints of a certain type of complaint, whether that was founded or unfounded, and essentially the result. So I don't have one in front of me, but that could be they were arrested and charged. It could be, like the councillor referred to, going to extrajudicial measures. It could be discretion. So if we catch a 13-year-old doing something they shouldn't have been doing, like, they probably don't need to go and speak with the judge, as long as the guardians and the police and the community are on the same page that there's other measures. That would still be solved or scored as solved because we know what happened, we know who did it. We just used a different diversionary route, so that would still pop up as solved. But so you can search through the
I'll go through the big document. But I think it's good information for the general public to know that things are happening. Investigations are happening, people are being arrested, but it's the follow-through of the court system. Because, of course, the RCMP are the easiest to blame because they're in the community.
Well, we're public-facing.
We're the public face, right? So I just think that maybe there's some way of better communication to get that out there, that these things are happening. We're doing it, it's the follow-through. Because I think that's some of what I hear from my citizens in my district. Well, cops aren't doing nothing. No one's being, officially charged and paying fines and going to jail. But that's all they see, because they see Joe Blow walking down the street again. But they might not know that, yes, this person was actually arrested, and then the case was just thrown out.
Or it's before the courts.
Right? So I just think that having that information and having this information to be able to go back to tell our citizens that, we did have this presentation and things are being done. I think it might help with some of the stigma around it, but there's only so much the police can do, and perhaps there's other avenues that we can do to try to push the follow through.
Something else that comes to mind is we live in a time of instant gratification. So right now, we arrest people and charge them, and we're setting trial dates well into 2024. So, and that's again not us, and that's not that's not the Crown or defense or the judge's fault, but the amount of cases that are on the docket, it's an overburdened system, I think, would be a fair assessment. So that's, if we arrest somebody and charge them, and then it goes to court and they don't hear about a trial for 18 months, 2 years, it's not, and yet we know, for those of us who have raised children, if you try to discipline your child, 10 months from now for something that they did today, there's no lesson learned. In fact, they don't even know what they're being disciplined for. And that's why actually we try to use some of these diversionary programs, because if we can figure out what happened and resolve it now, it tends to have a greater impact than learning a lesson months or years later. Thank you.
Councillor Longmire, followed by the Deputy Warden and Councillor Cotw, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike, for being here today.
No problem.
I often hear in my district the absence of presence.
Yeah.
And I know that the stretch, as we are geographically stretched, and we have these rural roads that end nowhere, right, at times. It's hard to, travel all of those roads all of the time to manage them and to, catch those that are speeding, running stop signs, running lights. It's enormous, right? It's huge work. I often wonder, do we have the members to do the work? Because I often see the cars sitting at the detachment, and I think, do we have enough people out there on the roads to do the work? And I know everyone is strapped, just like the courts are strapped to do their part, and the docket is full. The thing is, citizens can't feel safe. It is really hard, and I have been, at the mercy of persons landing on my property and stealing, and I don't want to take it in my own hands, right? And so, as Councillor Sheridan said, it's serious matters, and the issue with people writing their own rules down.
Yeah.
Right? So, how can you answer that, Mike, with the members? How can we be reassured that we have enough out there to do?
So what's really interesting about policing, so I've been a police officer for just about 16 years, and that's not a long time. It's, I'm more than halfway through a policing career, but in the big scheme of things, it's not a long time. But in those 16 years alone, policing has changed a lot. And we now have citizens calling because, they emailed $2,000 to somebody, and we have, break-and-enters where their property is being sold. Somebody referred, somebody going to Weymouth. A lot of crime is done interjurisdictionally and online, and unfortunately, it's become much more complex to investigate, which often involves police officers sitting in front of a keyboard. So, one of the first paragraphs in that report, actually, the colorful report, I've heard very loud and clear since my time here that police being on the road is important. And that was through the Middleton Police Advisory Board and the County Police Advisory Board. So we more than doubled our traffic enforcement since I've been here. I'm not sure that there's a number that we could reach that the people would say, the police are on the road enough. That's enough. I don't think that exists. And I'm not saying we're doing enough. I'm saying the big thing is, the other thing is I can drive up a road 3 or 4 times in the span of one day, and then I can hear that same day that the police are never there. So I think a lot is messaging. I think if the police do an Instagram post or a Facebook post, it's probably better for police visibility than actually driving down the road. Because everybody and their dog will see, Mike Maxwell was at whatever school on such and such a day. Like thousands of people see it, versus if you go to the school and you actually put in that, which is the important work, and don't put it on Instagram or Facebook, nobody thinks you're doing anything. So it's a difficult question to answer. Policing is becoming increasingly complex, and investigations are taking more and more time. The scrutiny of the public in the courts is higher than ever. And policing is also extremely expensive. So everywhere I've been, it's probably the number one item line on the county's budget, and it's probably the number one item line on the town of Middleton's budget, and it's probably the number one item line on every budget of this level of government. So we don't come asking for more, but as the work increases and the numbers stay the same, it's more difficult to be out on the road doing the things that the people are hoping to see.
Deputy Warden, please.
So I understand not everything you do is criminal. So my question is sort of how much of your community contact, if we take this a little broader term, is sort of because of, I want to rephrase this a little bit.
Okay.
So here out there, people said it, we've had comments here about crime being motivated by drug addiction and things like that, like other things. How much of your community contact is sort of poverty motivated versus addiction motivated versus mental health motivated?
I'd say they're all tied together.
Very much so, yes. It's a bit of a...
I'm not going to parse that for you. But no, you're right. Absolutely. And it's unfortunately has a large impact in this county specifically. Food insecurity, housing insecurity. The warden and Councillor Gunn were recently at a homelessness meeting that I was also at the NSCC in Middleton. So, and that's the other thing, we're involved in a lot more than just crime. We wear many hats. We're doing our best to be the part of solutions that are multifaceted problems. We have families right now in our county who both parents work full-time and they can't afford housing. That's difficult to deal with. And we can't arrest our way out of those problems, no matter how hard one may try. So I would say much of the crime comes from poverty and addiction and mental illness. And to divide them into those three categories wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, I just sort of picked words to fill in at the end there. And those ones in particular, many of the aspects of poverty would mandate housing, food security, things like that, whereas mental health is maybe not technically within the purview of the municipality. Of course, we have many things that tie into it, but it is, you have to put an egg in a basket. It's not necessarily our basket that. Thank you for your comment.
Councillor Cotw, please.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for coming. Nice to see you in a different setting, but usually we're over here. As a member of the Police Advisory Board, I'll be representing council along with Councillor LeBlanc. Under the good work of our chairperson, Dane Berenger, I think we've been able to have a number of meetings. I think we've had 4, perhaps 5.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. And that's a good thing, and we have another one scheduled in the fall. We've had good representation and cooperation from the detachment. That's my belief, and I don't think anyone would disagree with me. And that's led to addressing issues that were raised here, and I'm thinking in particular of the speeding in Granville Ferry. And I mean, it's mentioned in the report, and we've had lots of discussions on that as well as other topics. So I think sort of the renewed effort from the current Police Advisory Board. I know in the past there was COVID, and there were a number of issues that sort of led to a number of committees not perhaps meeting regularly, but I do think we're moving in the right direction with that, and large part of that comes from the help we're receiving from the local detachment. Thank you. Real quick.
Councillor Gunn and Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you very much. I'll make this real quick. So we have roughly, I forget now, but I always thought the number was around 23 officers in Annapolis County. And what I'm trying to figure here and would like to know is who makes that decision on how many officers is in the county or are stationed in the county, or is it based on population? So we got 20,000 people roughly in Annapolis County, so that gives us 20 officers. Is that about right?
There's 22 positions.
We could put 22,000.
Yeah. And that would be negotiated between DOJ and the county, I guess.
If I may, it's a council decision to make a recommendation.
Right.
And we started in 2012, and I think we increased by 3. And at that time, each additional RCMP member was $150,000. And I think it's gone up to about $200,000 now. But that's, the start is a decision by council to fund, and then you carry on the negotiations.
So there's not actually one bureaucrat up there saying, listen, there's 22,000 people in this county, we need 22 officers or anything like that. It's a council decision, a committee of council decision that starts.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, that's what I got from.
What I said was that council, generally speaking, is the starting point. If we wish to spend $200,000, $500,000 on additional RCMP, then we go to, I guess we go to the province, and things go on from there. Period. Paragraph. There probably is someone in the Department of Justice and in RCMP that just off the top of the head will say, if you have 50,000, an average number is this, but if you have those circumstances, it's that and someplace else. But I don't think there's a hard and fast number that's been foisted on us.
Okay, thanks for taking a look at that. Thank you.
So from the RCMP, there's what we call a police resource methodology. So they'll study not just population, but response times to communities, population, type of crime, other expectations of police, and then they'll make a recommendation, the county makes a recommendation, so on and so forth, and it goes through the province, just like the warden said. And the other thing to remember here is it's a district model of policing, so the policing service is shared between the town of Middleton and the county. But the police officers work in both and move fluidly back and forth between the two.
Thank you.
Councillor LeBlanc, please.
Thank you. Nice to have you here, and it's nice to see that you're here and listening to the same comments and same strain of and opinions of the whole of council. And it's nothing new to you, we know that. There's also the fact that there's a lot more thrown on your plates as officers with the mental health issues, with the sexual assault issues, with the cyber issues that were not things that were formally seen and had to be dealt with. So, and I'm glad you made the point that it's important for people to speak out and to the police, because I cannot, and I tell these statements to the citizens, I can't, you can give me the complaint, yes, I can call you and give that complaint, however, I'm missing many parts that you're wanting to know about. So it's best for the citizen to call you and you can get all facts about what's going on. So I would like to say thank you on my behalf for being here, and I'm sure we'll see you again. You will. You will be invited, and taking all these questions and comments from all the council. Thanks.
So, Councillor Bartow, followed by Councillor Connell, please.
Thank you. Just a quick question. It's a problem controlling everything. You can't be there all the time at the right time. Hindsight's 20/20. Everybody's crystal ball is broken. So, going on from that, I volunteered for a lot of things all my life. Fire department, various groups, community groups, and everything. I'm also a member of ACAMUX, which is an APV group. And a few years back, we had people sat in, and I think we were give us a briefing on, some patrolling the trail, he had no authority as far as force. They wouldn't let you wear a gun, so fun away from there. Would you be willing to, if I talk to our committee, our group, to sit with us and go over? At that point, we went through that. They give me this vest with something that the headlights hit it, we show up and maybe a target. But, things moving along and you hear about the map and you hear about everything else. There's a possibility of people getting violent and stepping up to do some of these things that help keep things on a level. All of a sudden you get a little nervous, like who are you going to talk to? And if you are level-headed, you can talk to anybody, but if somebody says the wrong thing and gets somebody upset, you cause a situation which I wouldn't want to get into. That's why I was asking if you'd be willing to, on an organized basis, to get together with groups and it's not only if you go and talk to us, there's probably other avenues that maybe we could draw in. Volunteerism is a big thing in the county. Just for example, fire department, if you didn't have that, we wouldn't have one, or it would cost us a huge lot of money. So I'm just throwing that out there, that what's your opinion on that? Do you think it's not a good idea? Do you think it is a good idea? Would you be willing to help promote that?
So like a volunteer of, let's say people associated to an off-road vehicle club who wanted to kind of be eyes and ears out on the trails, is that what you're saying?
Kind of. It's like if we encounter something, we just individual. But sometimes it doesn't.
I had one from last.
The ones that you want to talk to are probably the ones that you should be talking to. But if they're aware that somebody's watching, a lot of the time that's 90% of your problem gone away, because they know that they're just not getting away with it. Eyes on, eyes and ears in there. So.
Yeah, so historically and across the whole country, we've had things like Citizens on Patrol, which is kind of like what you're talking about, in premise anyhow. And I believe there's a desire to kind of reinvigorate Citizens on Patrol, especially in some portions of the county. But yeah, I'm a pretty open book, so I'm willing to meet with anybody who wants to talk about how we can improve public safety. And I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to lend my opinion, and I'm willing to work with and assist and support for sure. We'd obviously have to come to an agreement on the goals and mandate of the group, but yeah, if you want me to come and meet with anybody, just give us a call at the police station.
Maybe I'm stepping a little in. I haven't talked to our president of the association yet. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. I'll take that back to him and let him be the contact. Or if he delegates me, that's fine too.
We have some very avid riders at our detachment, so I'm sure it would be a natural name.
Yeah, we're a well-respected club, and I'll say no more than that.
Good. Councillor Cotw, I think that would probably do it.
Yes, some of the things I'm hearing in the county, and not only in my district, is we all know, no matter if we make a mistake, bad news travels a million times faster than good news. I do watch, I don't participate a lot in Facebook, but I do go through Facebook, and I do realize you guys are putting info on Facebook to keep citizens on what's going on. But the bad news is what travels. And the bad news that I'm hearing is that people aren't getting called back. I know one story of an individual took a page off of Kijiji and showed the stolen goods. And it's been over 2 months, and the RCMP have never called me back. His remarks are, I should have just called and told the fellow I wanted to buy the stuff and gone and got it myself. That's bad news, because that story is being told time and time and time again. Other instances is that people call. I know in my area there was a bunch of kids lit the wharf on fire. They called for an RCMP officer. There was none available. But there was never any communication to make sure the citizens in that community
knew that the RCMP did a roundabout checks for a while or anything else. They heard nothing. So again, the same story of sadness goes through the community. So, only thing I can say is that some is created by not getting back to people. And if that is what's creating some of the issues of, I'm going to take care of this myself, then you can't blame the citizens for it all. I mean, I know you guys are probably busy. I know that there's only so many of you. But like I said, one bad story will go around the community 900 times, where one issue, you guys driving through the community and pulling somebody over only is an act that day. So just be very aware that this is what's going through the communities, is that the RCMP are not getting back to the complainants.
I'm not aware of the two specific incidents that you brought up. I'd be happy to look into them if I'm given a few more details. Maybe we can do that after, or you can call me. But I've become well aware of certain things over the years, and one of those things is you can't control what people say. But you do have to have broad shoulders, and you have to stand on your own merits. So I do my job in a way that I'm proud of. I can't control what people say about me, right, wrong, truthful, untruthful, otherwise. I'm not saying we don't have flaws, because we do. We're like many other organizations in that way. If we're not calling people back, I would like to hear about it. And I can look into it and ensure that we're following up where we should be.
Yeah, and I'm just stating that fact is because I know that sometimes we don't communicate good at the county level. So if something has gone wrong and we don't communicate back, then it always looks like we're always the bad guys. And that's what I'm saying about the RCMP versus citizens. When citizens don't get called back, they're really fast on reporting that. And no matter what the reason is, they still report that bad part of it.
Yeah.
And it makes it, when it's told around the community, then individuals think it's that way. And I know that you guys are probably doing everything you can do. But like I said, bad news travels faster than good news.
One of the other things that you mentioned and I wanted to address and I didn't, we would never blame citizens, right? There's generally, especially with respect to crime, there's one person to blame. And it's not the police nor the victim. It's the person committing the crime. But if we're not getting back to people and they're not happy with that, I would like to hear about it.
And I think that's, from our point of view, a good thing to say at the end. We'd like to hear about it. Now at noon hour, there may be 15 people who are going to pick up their phone and going to get a hold of you. They're going to say, listen, we wanted to hear about it. Here it is. Thank you very much for coming. And I think the discussion from our point of view was a rewarding one. And as Councillor LeBlanc has said, I think we'll make sure that you come back on a regular basis.
Thanks so much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you. Have a great day.
Now, if we could move out of purgatory, Councillor Bartow, do you have something to say?
I do. For those few moments in purgatory, it gives some time for thought and contemplation. I would like to propose a multi-part amendment to the policy proposed. And that would be that in item 14, that add a number 4, and committees to meet at least once a year.
Hold on.
I can hand this over when I'm done, if you can read it, and if you can, I can help you through that. Yeah.
Try to grab it as you read it.
So anyway, that's related to budget committee policy amended by, and item 29, when I talked to Mike originally, the current section 29A, B, C, and D, remove them and replace it with the following, 29A. The committee shall be comprised of all council members that have some water protection plan, including within the geographic boundaries of their electoral district. And 29B, 2 citizen representatives that live within or own property within each source water protection plan geographic area and/or committee, or that is certain, or I guess district that is served by each source water protection area.
Could you read that one again?
Yeah.
B would be,
Okay, 29B. The B,
yes.
Yes.
2 citizen representatives that live within or own property within each source water protection plan geographic area. That is served by each water protection area committee currently. We can work on that exact wording a little bit.
So what's it?
It's to, if I explain as I go, that the two representatives that, and in policy, I'm trying to bring forward some issues that one is, you live or own property. You can own property in it, but you have to, there was some of the original criteria from past committees was you had, a certain amount of the members had to live in, and they didn't have to own the property per se. So I guess I could leave that and stop work on exact wording, but the idea is to have a minimum of 2 representatives from each of those districts. There's more in the existing policies, but if we're paring it down to 2, that we include the property owners and or residents of those properties.
Okay,
So I'll accept clarifications from the nomination committee chair if you so wish.
no, I'd like you to finish.
Okay, and then we'll come back. Okay, thank you. Okay, this is to include who currently own property and or live in these areas, a minimum of 6 months with all property owners having county taxes paid in full. I think that was in some of the original. I'm not sure it was covered by somewhere else in the policy, but I didn't get back to that one. And residents also minimum 6 months residing in the district where the source water is situated.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the amendment? Councilor Cotw seconds. Discussion.
I don't even know where to start.
Okay.
I'll start with, I'm good with 14 because you just added meet, what was it, Miss?
Once a year.
Meet once a year.
Meet once a year.
Yeah.
A minimum of once a year. But 29A, could I have a repeat of A? I think I'm good with that one. Does the clerk have? Madam Clerk?
Okay, A has scribbled on my paper.
Municipal,
29A,
yes.
committee shall be comprised of all council members that have some water protection plan included within the geographic boundaries of their electoral district.
So municipal shall appoint all councilors of that district. Okay. And not less than 8. Okay, so that's good. I'm totally confused from there on because these two, can you read me the B one again?
21B, this would be the new 21B. 2 citizen representatives that live within or on property within each source water protection plan geographic area.
Sure.
Okay.
So it's 2 citizen appointees. You're keeping not more than 2 citizen appointees, right?
Can I read what I captured?
Okay.
So the amendment was moved by Councillor Bardo and seconded by Councillor Connell to amend the motion by, in item 14, to add number 4, committees to meet at least once a year, although there's already a policy in place for that to happen.
Yes.
And the source water was just the last one that it didn't happen. Anyway, and item 29, remove current sections A, B, C, and D and replace with A, all council members that have a plan in the geographic boundaries of their electoral district, and B, 2 citizen representatives that live within or own property within each source water protected plan geographic area who have resided for a minimum of 6 months and the property taxes paid in full.
But
Is that
Yeah, that covers it.
okay. So having heard that, so we're not allowing people who have commercial or industrial to be part of it, because if I heard it correctly, and then the 6-month thing is already part of a minimum of 6 months, that whole thing should not be.
The commercial.
And pay taxes is already part of it.
So,
Right? So if I may, I'd like to get this a little bit more put together.
so just to clarify, so 2 citizen representatives within each district that own property or live within the district, or the geographic area of the watershed area. That's what the amendment is. So whether you're an individual and you own residential property, you own commercial property, you own a business, you own industrial, is irrelevant. If you own a business or an industry, or you just own a regular house, you're eligible based on what's put forward. There's no distinguishing criteria anymore that says we must have so many people that are industrial, commercial. It's open to essentially 8 people. Okay, within the geographic area of the watershed. So somebody may live within your electoral district, but may not be on the watershed, and that would exclude these people. So they have to have a direct impact on the watershed.
What about the people that don't own property but have lived there for 25 years by renting?
But that's what it says, live or own. Yeah, if you live in the watershed area or own property. Yeah, so that's what the amendment says.
Okay.
The issue around the 6 months is I guess a council decision. The issue around taxes is problematic, because taxes become due June 30th. If you don't pay your taxes, that means you're not in the committee anymore.
Right, and we clarified that piece.
And taxes include, generally under the Municipal Government Act, include water, sewer, all those types of things as well. So if somebody doesn't pay their water bill on time, are they then off the committee? So that's kind of a problematic issue.
But we already changed that bit when we did the last one. Because of exactly that reason. So we worded it differently in all the other ones.
Previous year.
Previous years. Yeah, previous years, correct.
And the residing one is, I guess, a council decision, but if somebody lives there seasonally, are they considered residing there? Or do they have to live there year-round?
Well, this is the thing.
So that becomes
that becomes a little more problematic.
Can I amend that?
Councilor Berkeley?
If you could amend my motion by removing.
No, hold on. We're not amending
Yeah.
the amendment, you're clarifying.
Okay, oh, clarify.
Okay.
Clear, thank you. I threw that in because it's another policy that I've seen, and I thought maybe it was the right thing to do. Anyway, if we avoided that and said, who qualified, would that be appropriate? And then that would leave us the option to go back and say, well, you have paid taxes, you can't be a member, or is there a spot where in the review process that's going to be picked up anyway?
If I could, Warden, that's in another policy, and you already clarified that, so it's really kind of a non-starter for this one. It was already clarified in another policy as a result of nominating's dealings with that issue.
Right.
So, in clarification, my motion, if my seconder agrees, is the last things I mentioned, the vote for
So you want it to end at within each source water protection planned geographic area, period.
yes,
Done.
thank you.
Discussion on the amendment. Councilor Gunn, followed by Councilor
Thank you.
Sheridan.
Would these people be members of the water, or customers of the water utility? Have to be customers of the water utility or not?
I would say no, because the source water protection is somewhat separate from the water utility. So someone may live within the actual geographic area of water utility, source water protection area, but not be a customer downhill. When I say downhill, live downstream from it.
But just live in the area?
They live in the area. They have the potential to pollute it. They have the potential to, do stuff that they shouldn't be doing. So it's a different issue than a customer.
Thank you.
Councilor Sheridan.
I'm just a little bit confused. So if we left this the way it was, or is, it's allowing not more than 3 citizens in 2 different criterias there, which we may need in case of, say, Lake Katy has 1 and Bridgetown has 0. But if we get 3 citizens, up to 3, say, in Granville, would they be allowed to sit? No. The way this one's worded. But the way this is worded, would it be allowed? If we had 3 citizens in Granville, but only 1 in Lake Katy.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, based on the current wording, you could have 8 people from all the same district. If they met the criteria.
Right, and that's what this is, right?
The original one, yeah.
Yes.
But you have to remember that council's making these appointments. So if you think a person hasn't lived in a community for a long time, you don't appoint that person. If you think if you have too many people from one district, you don't appoint those people. Council has the ultimate decision of who you're going to appoint and where they're from and what their background is and all that stuff.
So I'm just suggesting if we just left this part as is, would it not be more beneficial for us in recruiting people for on these committees? That's just my
So
opinion.
are you offering an amendment?
No, I was just throwing that out there for discussion.
Can I respond?
Hold on, please. Clerk?
I would just like to remind everyone, because it's always confusing, each of our water supply areas have 2 separate committees. One is a source water protection advisory committee, and one is a water supply area advisory committee, and they're 2 different things. And right now, we're only talking about the source water protection committees.
Yes.
Further discussion on the amendment, Councilor Cotw.
I'm going to support the amendment because I would want to see 3 from Granville Ferry and 1 in Marcusville. I'd rather see 2 from Granville Ferry and 1 from Marcusville, because if the committee's going to be lopsided, then it's not fair to the other water supplies. What's fair is give the councilors a chance to at least fulfill those 2 appointments. And again, Marcusville has not been a problem of finding individuals It's finding the individuals, putting them on a committee, and never meeting. That's the issue. So don't slide past the issue on who's being elected to go in on this. The biggest problem is that the ones that's been on the Margarettsville water supply have said it time and time and time again. They're sick of being appointed to a committee from council and never meeting. That's the issue. So I think sticking to 2 from each committee, each district, is the right way to go. And leave it to us to fulfill that. And I don't actually agree with meeting once a year. The environment at Middleton said they should meet somewhere up toward 4 times a year. Quarterly. We have issues in Margarettsville right now. The gentleman that protected that water system for the last 50 years has sold all of his land to an individual that plants crops. The individual that protected that water supply made sure he didn't plow that land that ran into the water supply. He made sure he didn't put chemicals on that piece of property. Now we're faced with a gentleman coming in that doesn't live in that community, and he wants to make money. He has not got an invested interest in that water supply. So I know that people are going to step up to the plate because that is an issue that's came forward in the last 2 years. And we've had all the opportunity. We've sat around this table for the last 15 years and seen the water committees drop and get back on and go like a bugger and then be dropped again for another year and never meet again. That's what the citizens are sick of. They're not sick of sitting on a committee if they know it's doing a purpose. So I think that I would like to see 2 in each group, and the same as Bridgetown. When was the last time Bridgetown water protection met? I've never heard of Bridgetown water supply meeting.
Okay. Shall we have a go? All those in favor?
Just have Ray. Just for everybody's clear.
Councillor LeBlanc, please.
I have an amendment, if that's the case.
An amendment to the amendment.
Yeah.
Can you do that before we?
Number 14, if it's important and it's been brought to our attention, then instead of saying meeting once a year, it should be changed to meeting quarterly. If that's the case.
Just hold on.
So that's my amendment for that one. I'll leave one at a time, because that will work better for me.
We're okay there. Let's amend it to the amendment. Discussion on the amendment to the amendment. All in favor of the amendment to the amendment?
Right here.
Yes. Opposed? Carried. Now we are on to the amendment.
No, just please wait. Who was the seconder?
For the amendment to the amendment?
For the amendment to the amendment.
Councillor Barker.
And that amendment to the amendment was carried.
Yes. Now we're on the main amendment.
For 14.
You're on the amendment as amended.
Yes.
Which reads?
Pardon me?
You have to give me a minute for that.
Okay, we're just dealing with 14 right now, I believe.
No, I think it's
No,
all
we're
of them.
dealing with the amendment.
The whole thing.
It's supposed to.
Well, then
No,
we
you're
gotta change.
dealing with the amendment as amended.
Yes.
You're not dealing
Okay.
on an amended motion.
So what you're dealing with now is 14.4, at least once a quarter. So that's now on the floor. And then the other motion was each member of council whose electoral district is within the geographic area of the source water
Yeah,
protection
we're not
plan.
on that yet.
We're on that now. And then the second amendment, or the second part of that, the B part, 29B, is 2 members per district. More or less.
No.
2 citizen representatives.
2 citizen representatives per source water area, whatever it
Yeah.
is, yes. So a council member for each, all council members who are impacted by source water protection plan, their geographic district, as well as 2 citizen members.
For each source.
for each that own or live in the
Towards their area.
yeah.
So we okay?
So that's the,
I'll catch up. Yeah.
All right.
As we read.
We are on the amendment as amended. Councilor LeBlanc.
So the one that our CAO has just said, that would be B, correct? B.
29 A and B.
A and B. C would leave?
So A, B, C, and D go, and it's being replaced with an A and a B.
So the fact about the taxes and such has been dropped?
Yes.
It's already in another policy.
Well, it is, yes. So the minimum 6 months also has been dropped?
Yes.
Okay. Not
All right.
seeing it on paper, I think I'm good.
All right, we're now voting on the amendment. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? 1. Motion carried. Now we are voting on the motion as amended. We're now voting on the motion as amended.
It would have to be read so that everybody is at the same level.
You will have to give me a minute,
No.
please.
Yes,
because
no,
I'm still typing what the amendment to the amendment.
That's okay, we're good, we can wait.
Can you have a 5-minute break?
Sure.
Thanks.
Oh, perfect.
A quick 5 minutes.
Quick 5 minutes?
Yeah, right.
Welcome back. I'd ask the clerk to read the motion, please.
It was moved by Deputy Warden Redden, seconded by Councillor Sheridan, that Municipal Council approve AM 1.3.6.5 Source Water Protection Advisory Committee policy as amended to add in item 14, number 4, committee to meet at least quarterly, and in item 29, removing A, B, C, and D and replacing with A, all council members that have a plan in the geographic boundaries of their electoral district, and B, 2 citizen representatives that live within or own property within each source water protection plan geographic area, 7-day notice.
Thank you. Discussion, Councilor LeBlanc, please.
Okay, I couldn't pinpoint what my problem was, but I know what my problem was. So in the B part of number 29, if you would start the reading of the B again, Madam Clerk.
2 citizen representatives.
Okay. At that point, if we could amend it by saying at least 2 members, citizen appointees or representatives, being at this point, we have members on these committees.
Hold it. What is your amendment?
Just what I said, to appoint at least 2.
All right, do we have a seconder for that amendment? Councilor Bartow. Councilor LeBlanc.
So the reasoning behind it is, at this moment, we have some committees, I believe, that have 3 members or 4 members of whatever 5 that we needed or 6. If we don't put at least 2, then we would have to eliminate some of the appointees that we have already put in. Which to me...
This is only for the source water. That's what we're dealing with.
I realize that.
All right. That was the amendment. Who seconded? Councilor Bartow. Councilor Connell, please.
Again, I'm not going to vote for that amendment if it's going to allow for some of the source water protections to put more than 2, and some that just haven't got 2. Onslow hasn't got any, according to the clerk. So, I mean, he's got to go to the county, he's got to go to his district and find at least 2 people. I'm not willing to sit on a committee that's overruled by a majority of one of those water protection areas. It should be equal across the board. If we can't get 2 apiece, then it's whoever we get. But it shouldn't be because we got 4 on some committees right now that all 4 get elected to it. And then Onslow gets none. And then I got 2, and I'm pretty sure I got 2. after a while, we got two to agree. So I think it should be flat, two residents.
Thank you.
Is that what you meant?
Are we ready to, Councillor Prout?
Thank you. I agree with Councillor Connell. I think we have 4 zones, 2 per zone. It's great.
Thank you. Are we ready to vote on the amendment to the amendment? All in favor? 1 opposed.
I wasn't sure.
Your motion is defeated. On the motion, all in favor?
You better speak.
Opposed? 2. Motion is passed. Thank you.
I got it.
We'll now turn to page 35.
Brutal.
Councillor Enzo, please.
Thank you. I move that municipal council approve the road name Dragonfly Lane for the shared access road at Long Lake in Hampton on PID 05169594.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Gunn. Discussion.
I like the
Councillor Sheridan,
I was
please.
just gonna say, I really like the name.
Yes.
Unique.
I like the name Hoot Owl better.
Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. This is probably going to sound a little bit strange, but I would just like to know why Hoot Owl Lane was seen as being a negative undertone. Who makes that decision on what negative looks like, sounds like?
Well, that decision is made by the person who expressed the fact that Hoot Owl Lane has some negative undertones.
Where does that body of people come from?
Oh, I have no idea.
They live on that road.
Not necessarily.
Thank you, Warden. The resident who actually lives on the lane, she would be most affected by the name change, and whereas all the other ones are more seasonal and don't have their personal mailing address and all of that. So the expression came from the resident that it had negative connotations because of a phrase, crazy as a hoot owl. And she didn't appreciate that, in that she would have to use that as a source of reference for all of her personal information or tell people where she lives.
Thank you.
Okay.
Makes sense.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Like I said.
You're welcome.
Under discussion, Councillor Bartow.
The owner of the property, the right-of-way is actually placed on, are they opposed to Dragonfly Lane?
No, their
Thank you.
preference was that, or they came up with, the property owner came up with Hoot Owl Lane. But because they don't actually have their mailing address and stuff, it's been our practice to take the concerns of the residents who actually live there all the time, year-round, on roads that we name. And so in that case, when I approached that to the property owner, she's like, oh yeah, well, that's not so bad. I could live with that Dragonfly Lane. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Move to page 38, please. Deputy Warden.
I move that, no, this is the,
Yes, page 38.
I don't see a motion then to make. There was a recommendation about a policy change.
If you could express that, the first sentence after the word recommendation as a motion.
I move that there be no schedule.
Yes, I understand what the recommendation from staff says. There's already a motion that says there's no meetings in August from last year, if I recall from
There
the
isn't.
report.
Clerk, please.
No, and I think I
Did I
included in
misunderstand
there,
the report?
there was a
That was
motion,
just for last year.
was specifying 2022.
So that's what I misunderstood. My apologies.
That's
So,
later down in the discussion.
I move that there are no scheduled meetings in August 2023, including committees of council and council.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Longmire. Discussion.
Right here.
Of course, Councillor Dunn.
Thank you. Won't be voting for this.
Thank you.
And the reason being is every year that we don't schedule meetings in August, we have meetings in August. Thank you.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? One.
Oh, no, I was in favor.
Thank you. I think now we go to page
No,
7.
there's a second part to that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
They just won't be scheduled.
The second paragraph.
I move that staff bring a report to September Committee of the Whole to amend AM-1.2.0 Committees of Council and Council Meetings Procedures Policy to include that there are no scheduled meetings in August, including committees and council.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Connell. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? One. Motion carried. Thank you. Page 70, please.
I'll move the first one.
Yes, please, Councillor Connell.
I move that municipal council approve a grant to the Marksville Shore Society in the amount of $10,000 to support upgrades and repairs to the Marksville Wharf in accordance with AM-1.4.3 Harbor Authorities and Society's Capital Assistance Program, large project capital investment grant.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Prout. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Councillor Bartow, please.
Okay. I move the council approve a grant to the Wharf Rat Iowa Motorcycle Association in the amount of $5,000 to support marketing costs for the annual Wharf Rat Rally in accordance with AM 1.4.9 Community Grants Marketing and Promotion Partnership Program.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Connell. Discussion, please. Councillor Connell.
I attended the rally 2 weeks ago. Devil's Half Acre, Kemple. Hadn't been on since COVID. In Kemple, they shut down the street that's in between going to the hospital and the front, number one. Before the day was out, they ended up shutting down a second street. The bikes were lined both sides of the road, a path down through the center. They had activities for kids. They did an amazing job, and it was amazing to see all those people going back out to events. The pubs were full, the eateries were full. The income that came into Kempville that one day, because it didn't go back up on that Sunday, was phenomenal. And it's good to see that people are going back out to events. And I think DB will be one of the same.
And I think also that my district, District 6, profits enormously through accommodation at various places and eateries. And thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Gunn, please.
Thank you. I move that municipal council approve a grant to the Milford and Area Community Association in the amount of $1,200 to support the installation of a heat pump in accordance with AM 1.4.9 Community Grants, Community Halls and Centers Assistance Program.
Seconded by Councillor Hudson. Discussion, please. All in favor? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Councillor Enslow, please.
Thank you. I move that municipal council approve a grant to the Clarence United Baptist Church in the amount of $2,400 to support exterior repairs to the church in accordance with AM 1.4.9 Community Grants, Community Halls, and Centers Assistance Program.
Thank you. Seconded by
Right here.
Councillor Gunn. Discussion. Councillor Bartow.
I was always of the understanding that policy, now I haven't read it lately, is that community hall, but if a church had a community gathering place, it might qualify, but just for a church, the church has money. And I was just wondering how this fits into our policy.
Yeah, exactly. The information that the applicant provided clearly states and identifies them as a community center, not necessarily a church, although the church owns it. If I may, Warden, the first paragraph of their letter, as with many churches in rural areas, the Clarence United Baptist Church no longer holds regular services, aside from 2 special non-denominational services, Easter and Christmas. Instead, approximately 95% of the building's use is for other community events. While the structure historically and architecturally defines it as a church, it is much more than that, with its primary purpose now being to serve the broader community. They've also provided many different events that take place, when they took place, and letters of support from various groups using it as a community hall, not as a church. They actually applied for $5,000, and based on the information they provided in the application, it was better suited for the Community Halls and Centers Assistance Program.
Thank you. Councillor Enslow, please.
Thank you. I just want to provide a little bit more context. So I have been attending some of their meetings, and they're in the process now of actually going completely away from the church like the church itself, and looking at the possibilities of making the whole center community center. It is a very large facility, but they have to keep it under the name of a church because of the historical thing. It has a municipal historical designation. But it is only used for community events like 4-H and different things.
Thank you for that, Councillor Gunn.
Thank you. And if I might add to that, it's more set up like a little museum than anything. You know, it's a lovely little.
It's a nice
little church. Thank you.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Page 74, please. Deputy Warden.
I move that municipal council authorize the warden and clerk to sign a waste resources management service agreement with Valley Regional Solid Waste Resource Management effective from July 1st, 2023 until March 31st, 2025, or upon the establishment and finalization of a new intermunicipal service agreement.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Discussion, please. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Opposed? Motion carried. Page 74. Councillor Gunn.
On 74?
82.
That's what I said, 82. Councillor Gunn, please.
Thank you so much. I recommend that municipal council approve the expenditure of $2,600,000 for the development and construction on the new Bear River water system.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Enslow. Discussion. Councillor Sheridan.
So this would be, of course, pending grant and whatnot. Okay, thank you.
So, if I may, so work has begun now to do the initial design phase, which Ms. Barr has been working with Mr. Young on. So in order to proceed and do the detailed designs and stuff, we need a budget.
Right.
And so council needs to be aware that the total budget right now, the estimate is 2.6 million. And so in order to spend a little bit of that money, we need some council approval to go ahead and do that. But obviously, after the initial design phase, unless we get substantial amount of capital money, the project doesn't move forward. Without coming back to council for further budget allocation.
Councillor Enslow, please.
I just want to say, I'm super happy, but I can't be as happy as Mr. Gunn, that it looks like we're rolling in the right direction, and hopefully we don't lose steam, because I know this has been ongoing, and I know I have a lot of friends and acquaintances and family that live in that area, so it's nice to see that it's moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor Bartow, please.
I guess I'm just wondering, like, moving ahead with budgets and stuff, this is not going to cover everything because it tails off on the end of the report saying that this doesn't even include drilling a couple new wells, what the cost may be related to that. Is there any estimate of costs on there that never made it into the report?
It was my understanding that that was including the estimate for the cost of the drilling of wells.
That's a huge amount, though. I didn't see where that was included in the total.
In the CBCL report.
CBCL report, you mean?
CBCL report item 4 on page 86. Item 4, well exploration, 50,000, I think that's what you're referring to?
That's exploration, but then...
So that's been completed, that portion of the explanation, but then when they talk about, the treatment of the water main and everything, I think that's included in that. That's my understanding.
So right at the bottom of that page, the estimated cost includes the need for additional exploration, commissioning of new wells. So the cost includes that.
That's exploration, it's not implementation. There's usually costs attached to actually drilling and installing any wells like that. I don't think that's included in the figures.
Wouldn't they use?
Councillor Enslow.
Maybe I'm wrong, but wouldn't they use the wells that they did the exploring with? I thought that was all part of one
Part of it, I think the
package.
plan is for them to add additional wells.
Yeah.
And my understanding was that was included in that total.
I think that's how that whole
We can certainly double
process
check.
works.
Sounds like they'd have to put at least a couple of wells in for the required water flow. And I would at some point, as soon as possible, like to hear what that additional budgeting cost is.
Thank you. Councillor Prout, please.
Thank you. I would just like to echo Councillor Enslow's comments. As long as I've been on, long before I came on council, I know that this has been an issue that Councillor Gunn and others have pushed for and pushed for and pushed for. And to see that we'll finally have potable water in our side of Bear River, I'm not as happy as he is, but I am happy for him and for the residents. Yeah. It's good to see.
Thank you. Councillor Sheridan, followed by Councillor Connell, please.
I'm just excited to see the outcome of this and the new development that may happen there, because I do know businesses have left because of the water issue. So I'm really excited for the community as a whole. It's such a beautiful little community, and I'm hoping to see it grow. Thank you.
I think when all this is done, we'll go and gather in the main street and do a dance of excitement. Councillor Connell, please.
So, under the building comfort station, I thought we got the COA money to do that. Is that Is that money that's allotted there, the 250,000?
So the understanding is that we do have that money. The money was for a previous fiscal year, so there's a little bit of confusion as to whether we're going to be able to use it because we didn't have the water source to the comfort station. So we're hoping to continue to work with Alcoa, provide them this information, and still be able to get access to that grant, to be able to go after the comfort station in the future.
Thank you. And I'm very happy that we're moving forward.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I had two other comments, but Council Connell cut one of them off, so I'll be shorter. Down at the bottom of the page in that paragraph, I do see where it said what production level approximately, well, 50,000, is that supposed to be an extra zero, like 50,000 or well?
Yes.
Okay, maybe that answers my original question.
Hawkeye made
I took
it.
the report.
Councilor Gunn.
Thank you very much, and yes, to answer all, I am delighted that this is, is coming to some sort of fruition. We have a long way to go, I understand, and a lot of money to accumulate before this can move forward, but I'm confident that our CAO will find all that, and council will find it for us, and go ahead. And I appreciate it, and I thank you all.
Aren't we all?
We're all happy, yeah.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. And you have a report on page 89.
Thank you.
And you have a report on page 95. Thank you. I'd like a motion to win camera, please. Councilor Sheridan, seconded by Councilor LeBlanc. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Thank you.
That is in accordance with sections 22(2)C personnel and E contract negotiations of the municipal government.
Yes. Welcome back. The meeting is adjourned.